You might have heard that Michigan has more voters on its rolls than eligible residents in the state. We don't. That's not true, and I'll tell you how we know that. But first, my credentials. My name's Haley Harding. I am a reporter with a publication called Vote Beat. I write about voting rights and election administration in the state of Michigan, and I look into this kind of thing for a living. I'd probably be one of the very first people to tell you if something like that was wrong with our elections. So how do we know that Michigan doesn't have more voters on its rolls than actual eligible residents? It's actually pretty simple. That claim is based on a kind of a fundamental misunderstanding about both the makeup of the state's voter rolls and also what it means in relationship to census population data. First, let's look at the voter roll. It's not exclusively a list of people who voted in the last election. The number of registrations on Michigan's voter rolls includes voters who are marked as inactive, right? These people have not voted in the last several years. They have not responded to a state form basically saying, hey, are you still here? Do you still live at this address? Are you still voting? These inactive voters, though, they have to be kept on the rolls for several years under federal law. A lot of these people, experts have told me, very smart people who have studied this for their whole lives have told me, these inactive voters are most likely people who don't live in Michigan at all. Maybe they've died and that death did not get reported properly to the state. It is federal law that indicates that these voters cannot be removed before an election simply because they're marked as inactive. It's called the National Voter Registration Act. It requires that a record, which is I think the best way we can refer to these inactive voters, cannot be removed from the rolls unless that person has been inactive for at least 2 federal election cycles. That means a voter who last voted in 2020 and has since been marked as inactive needs to be kept on the rolls through at least 2024. And under the NVRA, the National Voter Registration Act, officials cannot do these large systematic removals of voters during the 90-day period before an election, which is called the quiet period. Additionally, Michigan state law requires the Secretary of State maintain a list of inactive voters. It's sort of a subset of the registered voter list, right? Those people would technically still be eligible to vote if they still live at their address, right, and they want to vote again, they are still eligible. But if they do cast an absentee ballot, it has to be treated in the same way as a challenge ballot, which means they're counted as usual, but they have to be specially marked in order to identify them in case somebody needs to look at them later. Usually it would be under a court order. Now, let's look at the census population data. People may look at the number of people 18 or older in Michigan, which is about 8 million people in 2024, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, and also compare that to the number of registered voters in the state of Michigan, which was about 8.3 million people on the day I'm recording this, according to the Michigan Secretary of State's office. And you can assume these numbers do not match up. You can assume there's a significant overcount in registered voters. But again, these numbers are missing really critically important context. Not every registered voter in Michigan is an active voter, which changes the math. The Michigan Department of State, who is the entity that oversees all of this, confirms that the state has about 7.3 million active registered voters. That means that despite the fact that Michigan has an incredibly high registration rate, we are one of the top in the country because of some programs we have for automatic registration when you get a driver's license, for instance. Despite that super high registration rate, there are not more than 8 million people actively voting in the state of Michigan. Numbers from the Michigan Department of State show that there are just shy of about 400,000 inactive voters who are slated to be canceled pretty soon. That includes just over 200,000 who are due to be canceled in 2027 and another 177,000 due to be canceled in 2029.